Of. Keep it above 200, Tyler.
1-0.
We're at 1-0. How much more can you go, Tyler? Show his face. How much more can you go, Tyler? Come on, Tyler. How much more cheerleading can I yell? Right now, Josh has lactic acid flood in his body. So his ability to sustain this high work rate is going to be severely limited. Now take a shot of this, Nathan, and look where he's low 47 now, and look at his body stopping. He's at 46.3. You can see where the line plateaued. He has high levels of lactic acid flood in his body, and we know that because he's above the 1.0. Now look at Josh's movement right now. No matter how much I scream, this elite athlete can't sustain it. So anything beyond the 1.0 makes them all not sustain the work rate. All right, Josh, come on down. Worked him at peak. If he's an elite athlete where the aerobic energy system and the aerobic anaerobic energy system, two different energy systems, are highly engaged in his sport, then we as strength and conditioning specialists have to train him. And to tell somebody you can get good aerobic workouts skipping rope, or you can get a good aerobic workout doing circuit training, we're not competent in our fields. We have to do it better than we're doing because the elite athlete deserves it. Okay, we take a look at the graph here. This graph is a very good visual of the anaerobic and aerobic energy system being engaged as a blend in everything that we physically do. So think of something in as far as duration. Think the duration of maximum exertion has more to do with which energy system is dominant. Look how at 10 seconds of maximum exertion, whether that's running a 100-yard dash or playing basketball hard, running up the court, 90% of the energy for activity at maximum effort for 10 seconds comes from the anaerobic energy system, and 10% from the aerobic. Look at 30 seconds and 60 seconds of maximum effort, and you can see again the body is clearly more anaerobic than it is aerobic. Now even at 2 minutes of maximum exertion, look how both energy systems are 50-50. And at 50% at 2 minutes, that would explain how we see muscle contractions as far as split times starting to slow down. So if I had somebody running right now in 880 and you were measuring the split times every 100 yards, you would see at the end of the 880, the last 100 yard split time would be slower than the beginning because of that anaerobic capability, the anaerobic energy system maxing out. And with that happening, muscle contractions have to slow down. Now when you look at 4 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, as you see the duration of exercise lasting longer, you start to see a more need for the aerobic energy system to dominate. And in that measure, we want to be able to say, well, is that type of activity 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour and 20 minutes? Does that, for the steady rate of exercise, does that cause more physiological change if the goal is building aerobic strength? Of course it does. So just because heart rate elevates to a certain number, that people for years have had misconceptions that it's training the aerobic energy system, that's not true. So we could have somebody right now doing circuit weight training that can easily drive heart rate up by the level of exertion, but those many circuits that they're doing, chest, then back, then legs, those stations they're hopping from one to the other, just because it causes heart rate to go up doesn't mean the aerobic energy system is dominant, because each one of those muscle groups that are being worked are being worked anywhere from 30 seconds to a minute before muscle fatigue sets in. And then it's a whole different muscle group being recruited. When we saw Josh upstairs, when we put him on the VersaClimber using more muscle mass, he was able to use more oxygen when he got to the same heart rate that was bringing muscle fatigue doing the mountain climbers or the push-ups. So we want people to realize in chronic illness and disease, aerobic strength is not talked about as the #1 factor to prevention. And if my heart rate can train at higher heart rates than a predicted age formula, I should be tested to know where that is. And if I can be tested to know that I can work where there's not a high level of carbon dioxide being blown off, which is a major factor that the anaerobic energy system is starting to predominate. Each time Josh Tyler on the climber or doing the mountain climbers or the push-ups got his respiratory quotient above 1.0, his muscles were heavily fatiguing. And with that heavy fatigue, he couldn't sustain exercise. So people that again, diabetics, a diabetic, if one of the biggest issues, type 2 diabetes, is being more responsive to the insulin you produce, then we've got to be able to develop the mitochondria of the cell. And the mitochondria of the cell won't develop unless the duration of exercise is progressive. That means we have to do aerobic strength training that sustains the activity for 30 or more minutes. This is what causes these individuals to cause a physical need for more mitochondria development. And does that help with their insulin sensitivity? Exactly. Now they got to be taught how to do prescriptive exercise that's sustainable. Well, that's why these tests need to be done to be exact to the individual. Hearing comments about that anaerobic is defining in the presence of oxygen. Well, everybody that does a VO2 peak test, they're delivering oxygen to their maximum. So it's not the issue that they can't deliver it, it's the muscle can't extract it. So you mean to tell me there's a set point for individuals, especially deconditioned individuals, that their delivery system is not limiting the factor. It's their muscle system's not ability to utilize it. And then when you look the other way, the elite athlete, his delivery system is highly engaged, but it's the limiting factor. Their muscles can extract it, but their heart and their lungs and their blood cells and the capillary beds, their limiting factor is the delivery system. So we need to, hopefully this showed there's a difference between aerobic and anaerobic, and heart rate has nothing to do with it.